I'm someone who likes to hold his hands up and say, I was wrong when I'm wrong. I'm not someone who constantly digs himself an early grave and says, even though I'm wrong, I'm going to keep on saying that I'm right. When I first heard they were making a Barbie movie, I thought it was the dumbest idea ever. And knowing that Margot Robbie would be producing this movie and starring in this movie, I pretty much knew that this was going to be a man-hating, extremist propaganda movie, which is exactly what Barbie is. But I also said, why are they making a Barbie movie? Why are they making a movie about a toy that's not relevant anymore? That element of it, I was wrong. It's clear that Barbie is still very, very popular today, and Barbie fever has hit the world, and the movie has opened up to a huge global box office. I will say congratulations to WB and Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig for their success. But how did the truth of this success happen? So they started coining the phrase barbieheimmer. What does barbieheimmer mean? So basically, they took the word Barbie and shortened down the word Oppenheimer to call this trend Barbieheimer. In other words, they were trying to encourage people not only to go and see Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, but Barbie at the same time. Now, it's pretty clear which movie needed the leg up, which movie needed the help. Barbie's got to be one of the most protected kind of cross-studio marketing campaigns I have ever seen. Have you ever seen another studio market another studio's movie alongside their own movie? This is what happened with Barbie, and that is exactly what Barbieheimer is. As I've already said, Universal Pictures, the producers and investors in Oppenheimer, are not a charity. So the question is today, how much money from this great huge box office that Warner Brothers Discovery are making on Barbie will have to go to royalties to Universal for helping them, sell this movie. We had Tom Cruise encouraging people to go and see Oppenheimer, then Barbie, because they're also desperate, as people are saying, as I'm saying, Hollywood is on its knees. We have a SAG-AFTRA Actors Union strike. We have a Writers Guild of America strike, and these strikes are not going to be over anytime soon. They're desperate to make money. So it's clear to me, and if I explain to you, Barbieheimer properly, you're going to understand one thing, that this is a cross-studio marketing campaign. Because Oppenheimer didn't need to be attached to Barbie. In fact, when you've got a 3-hour, dark, gritty, explosive biopic about a historical event attached to something as silly as a Barbie movie, it could have hurt Oppenheimer. Now, a lot of people are bragging that Barbie has made more money than Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is a 3-hour epic. It's an R-rated 3-hour epic. Of course, more people are not going to go and see that movie than Barbie. It will be very, very interesting what happens in the second weekend. How many people will go back to watch Barbie, and how many people, go back to watch Oppenheimer. So it could be that Barbie gets a huge second weekend, that the drop is very, very minimal. But it could be a situation that once people have seen Barbie once, they won't be interested to go and see again. And what will happen is more and more people will go, start watching and rewatching for second and third and fourth helpings of Oppenheimer. So the second weekend is very, very important. But there's no question, without the trend of Barbieheimer, Barbie doesn't make the money it would have made. And as I say, I think it's the industry's desperation that they attached Barbie and Oppenheimer to this cross-studio marketing campaign. And as I say, I have never seen the likes of this before. It's, to see studios cross-marketing a couple of pictures is crazy. But whoever came up with the Barbieheimer idea, and I have to say this as much as it triggers me and winds me up, is a fucking genius. And something tells me the genius isn't from Warner Brothers Discovery, but Universal. So I believe that Universal will be getting huge royalties for this cross-studio marketing campaign, which will reduce the profits. Now, they'll never tell you about this now. We have a woke, extremist, man-hating movie, which clearly is very, very entertaining. Listen, I'm not going to see this movie. I refuse to see Barbie, but at the end of the day, if you went to see that movie and you enjoyed it, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that people are going to movie theaters and enjoying what they're seeing at long, long last. This is what we want. We want people going to movie theaters and seeing stuff that they're enjoying. And Barbie, if you look away from the kind of propaganda and extremism, is a very bright, fun, entertaining movie. That's what people are telling me anyway. And Oppenheimer is this really dark, gritty biopic. So you've got these two very different type of movies, and they've had this cross-marketing campaign. But there's no question about it. It wasn't Universal who went to WB and said, cool, we could really do with some cross-marketing here. It's a very interesting situation because from the very beginning of Oppenheimer and Barbie being released on the same weekend, it did capture people's imagination, and people, as usual, said one will be successful and one will flop. This hasn't been the case. But it's very, very interesting. Why did these two studios decide to release these movies at the same time? Was this always an idea, or did they say, well, we are going to release these movies on the same weekend, why don't we just cross-promote them? You know, the Barbieheimer trend might see a new normal in Hollywood where studios cross-promote movies, because it certainly worked with Barbieheimer. There's no question about it, whether I like it or not. This has worked, but there's no question about it. Without Christopher Nolan being supportive to Barbie, without Universal being supportive to Barbie, Barbie wouldn't be making the money it is right now. And I think it's very ironic, because, they mention the patriarchy. It's a very anti-male movie, Barbie, but a movie in Oppenheimer, written and directed by a man, about a man, starring a man, has helped Barbie become successful. So the irony there is not lost on me. So there's lots of positives here for WB and Universal, because I think for both studios, it could have been very, very problematic to, release these movies at the same time. But instead of it hurting either studio, what it's done, the cross-studio promotional campaign, is absolute genius, because what they did was encourage people to go and see Barbie first or Oppenheimer first. If I was going to see both movies, as I say, I have no interest in seeing Barbie for obvious reasons, but I would go and see Oppenheimer, which is a very dark film, right? So if you're feeling a little bit kind of worn down emotionally and psychologically after Oppenheimer, you can go and see a lighter movie in Barbie. As I say, I'm glad that people have gone to Barbie and enjoyed it. I didn't think this movie was going to be successful. I didn't think people were interested in Barbie. I was wrong. But a new normal has been set here. But there's no question about it. And people can live in denial about this. Oppenheimer, Universal Pictures, saved another movie made by another studio. Let that sink in for a minute. Andy Muschietti has revealed the reason that Michael Keaton's Batman in the Flash movie retired from being Batman is because he killed a villain in front of his son, so that's why he stopped being Batman. I have no issue with this story conceit. My only problem is we're telling instead of showing. We should have seen a flashback to this. It's the same criticism that Zack Snyder, received for Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. We see the Robin suit. We see, the Joker writing, well, not writing, but he's writing on the Robin suit. The joke's on you, Batman, ha ha ha. We should have seen a flashback in BVS of Jared Leto's Joker kicking the shit out of Dick Grayson and murdering him in BVS. We should have seen that, because it would have been perfect, because the next movie, Jared Leto's Joker, is introduced in David Ayer's Suicide Squad. It would have made a lot of sense. Audiences don't like telling instead of showing. So I have no issue with, that being the reason that Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne quit being Batman, but I would have loved to have seen it in the flashback, because what it does, it develops your character. Even though we know Batman and Bruce Wayne extremely well, we know Michael Keaton's Batman and Bruce Wayne extremely well. We got to know him in 2 outstanding movies by doing a flashback of seeing, Michael Keaton's Batman killing a villain. It would have been very interesting. And the irony isn't lost on me that Ben Affleck, Zack Snyder's Batman, was criticized for branding criminals, for killing criminals, but they've done this. It's very, very ironic if you ask me. So as I say, it's a good idea. It's a brilliant reason for for Michael Keaton's Batman, retiring as Batman. But at the end of the day, I would have liked to have seen it, and I'm sure you would have liked to have seen it as well. And I suppose this is part of the multitude of reasons why The Flash failed. Michael Keaton's Batman just seems to be squeezed in. They give him his classic phrases. For me, it doesn't work. And I've said this before. Pierce Brosnan, a man of a similar age to Michael Keaton, I think was more successful as Dr. Fate than Michael Keaton was, reprising his role as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I think people went to cinemas to see Pierce Brosnan in Black Adam as Dr. Fate. A lot more than, audiences went to cinemas to see Michael Keaton reprising his role as Batman and Bruce Wayne. It's a bit of a mystery why Michael Keaton couldn't pull in, audiences to go and see him again as Batman and Bruce Wayne. It just shows you that WB's tactic of trying to find a way to bring audiences in, because Ezra Miller isn't a star turn. They're not someone that brings audiences, that puts butts in seats. And I think the problem that Hollywood are having here, and I think lots of people have discussed this, that there's no movie stars. I remember, one of the reasons that The Bodyguard was such a success, not only because Whitney Houston was in it and she had, she produced a great soundtrack for the movie, but at that point, Kevin Costner was putting butts in seats. We don't have actors like that anymore. It's the projects that bring people in, not the actors, and that's a huge problem, and we see it here. But I don't think Michael Keaton was ever a movie star. People didn't come in to watch Batman 89 and Batman 92 because of Keaton. They loved Keaton as Batman, but the star was Batman, and that's why people watched those movies. So as I say, at the end of the day, it's great that there's this brilliant deep reason why Michael Keaton's Batman retired as Batman, but we should have seen it. So you may or may not know that HBO Max produced a 3-part DC documentary about the history of DC. And I started watching it yesterday. I've watched a lot of great DC documentaries. DC used to put together some great documentaries. Look Up in the Sky, The Amazing Story of Superman, The Science of Superman. Lots of great, documentaries out there. This 3-part documentary that I haven't even completed the first episode of yet lacks life. It has an agenda, and I think from the moment I see a snippet of Justice League instead of Zack Snyder's Justice League, it takes me out of the documentary. Another problem I have, Zack Snyder isn't in this documentary, but they've got Patty Jenkins talking about Superman. Why is Patty Jenkins, a failed director at directing a superhero movie, talking about the greatest superhero of all time. You know, I don't understand why Patty Jenkins is so prominent in this documentary, and this is the problem with these people. And the agenda I'm talking about, it's there. It's the normal extreme left kind of, they've got their little agenda. It's there. If you watch the documentary, you'll see them slightly feeding it in. At the end of the day, it's great to see Mark Waid and great comic book writers like that. But the truth is, we've got brilliant DC documentaries. I don't think this 3-part DC documentary will do anything to heal the rifts of the fandom. And I am so confused why WB did not allow clips of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Why Zack Snyder couldn't be in that documentary. Why is Patty Jenkins there and not Zack Snyder? They showed clips of Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman. It doesn't make sense. They're so offended by the Snyder Cut. They're so offended that Zack and us, the fans, won in getting that movie released, that they're so butthurt. So I don't think it's a great documentary. I think the pacing is awful. It doesn't work, and I don't think it celebrates DC in the right way.